Welcome to episode 26 of TeflonStoic's Quest to 60. Playing hardcore WoW, learning about Stoic philosophy, Roman virtue. Let's continue.
Personally, but consider what I'm saying. It's this. I won't abandon old age if old age keeps me whole and intact. Especially my mind, which is the best part of me. But if old age begins to break down my mind and tear apart its various faculties, if it leaves me not life, but only the breath of life, I'll rush out of a house that's crumbling and falling apart. I won't avoid illness by seeking death, as long as the illness can be cured and doesn't hinder my soul. I won't take my own life just because I'm in pain, because dying in such circumstances is defeat. But if I find out that the pain will never go away, I'll leave, not because of the pain, but because it will stop me from living for the reasons I value. Someone who dies just because of pain is weak, a coward. But someone who lives just to endure pain is a fool. But I'm going on too long, and there's enough here to fill a whole day. How can a man end his life if he can't even end a letter? So farewell. You'll probably read this last word with more pleasure than all my talk about death. Farewell. Letter 59. On pleasure and joy. I really enjoyed your letter. Let me use the word enjoyed in the way people usually do, without worrying about the strict Stoic meaning. And Stoics, we believe that pleasure is something bad. Maybe it is, but we often use the word pleasure when we want to talk about feeling happy. I know that if we stick to our Stoic rules, even pleasure would be considered bad, and only truly wise people can feel real joy. For us, joy is a feeling of deep happiness that comes from believing in the goodness and truth of what we have. But most people talk about feeling joy when a friend becomes a leader, gets married, or has a child. But these things often lead to future sadness. Real joy never stops and never turns into something bad. That's why when our poet Virgil talks about the evil joys of the mind, he uses fancy language, but it's not really accurate. No real joy can be evil. He used the word joy to mean pleasures and was trying to show how people can take pleasure in things that are bad for them. Still, I wasn't wrong when I said I got a lot of pleasure from your letter. Even though a person who doesn't know better might feel joy from something good, that feeling can change quickly. So I call it pleasure because it's based on a wrong idea of what's good, and it often goes too far. But back to what I was saying. Let me tell you what made me happy about your letter. You have control over your words. You don't let your language carry you away or take you beyond the limits you've set. Many writers getting tempted by some fancy phrase and ending up talking about something completely different from what they started. But that didn't happen with you. All your words are focused and fit the subject perfectly. You say everything you want to, and you even imply more than you say. This shows what you're writing about is important, and that your mind, like your words, has nothing unnecessary or over the top. However, I do notice some metaphors in your writing, not wild ones, but those that have been used often and are accepted. I also see some comparisons. Now, if someone says we shouldn't use comparisons, claiming that only poets can do that, it seems they haven't read any of our older prose writers, who didn't try to show off with fancy language. These early writers who focused on getting their point across used plenty of comparisons, and I think they are necessary, not for the same reason poets use them, but because they help us explain things more clearly, making both the speaker and listener understand the topic better. For example, I'm currently reading Sixtius. He's a sharp thinker and a philosopher who, even though he writes in Greek, follows Roman principles. One of his comparisons struck me. He describes an army marching in a formation in a place where the enemy could attack from any direction. This, he says, is how the wise person should be, ready for battle on all sides so that no matter where the attack comes from, he can respond immediately and without confusion. We see this in armies led by great generals. The shoulders instantly understand their leader's orders because they are arranged in a way that allows a signal to reach both the cavalry and infantry at the same time. Sextius says this is even more important for people like us. Soldiers often fear the enemy for no reason, and what they think is the most dangerous part of the march might actually be the safest. But foolishness never finds peace. It is haunted by fear at the front, rear, and sides of the column. Foolishness is always in danger, facing threats from all directions. It panics at everything and isn't prepared for anything. It even gets scared of its own allies. But the wise person is ready for any challenge. He stays alert and doesn't back down in the face of poverty, sorrow, disgrace, or pain. He walks confidently, whether he's facing these challenges or surrounded by them. We humans are tied down and weakened by many bad habits. We've been stuck in them for a long time, and it's hard to clean ourselves of them. We're not just dirty or stained by them, but instead of jumping from one idea to another, I want to ask a question that I often think about. Why does foolishness hold on to us so tightly? First, it's because we don't fight it hard enough. We don't struggle for our own salvation with all our strength. Second, it's because we don't trust the wisdom of the wise enough, and we don't fully take in their teachings with open hearts. We approach this big problem with too little seriousness. But how can someone learn enough to fight against their bad habits if the time they spend learning is just the leftover time they have after indulging in those bad habits? None of us goes deep into the matter. We only skim the surface, and we think the little bit of time we spend searching for wisdom is more than enough for someone as busy as we are. What holds us back the most is that we're too easily pleased with ourselves. If someone calls us good, sensible, or holy, we believe them. We don't just settle for moderate praise. We take in every bit of flattery, no matter how exaggerated, as if we deserve it. We agree with the people who say we're best and wisest, even though we know they often lie. And we're so full of ourselves that we want praise for things when we're actually doing the exact opposite. A person might hear themselves called most gentle while they're torturing someone, most generous while they're stealing, or most temperate while they're drunk and indulging in lust. This is why we don't change. We think we're already the best. Alexander the Great traveled as far as India, attacking tribes that were barely known to their neighbors. During the siege of a certain city, while scouting the walls for weakness, he was wounded by an arrow. Even so, he continued the siege, determined to finish what he started. But as the wound began to dry up and the blood stopped flowing, the pain increased. His leg gradually went numb as he sat on his horse, and finally, when he had to withdraw, he exclaimed, "Everyone says I'm the son of Jupiter, but this wound proves I'm mortal." We should do the same. Each of us, in our own way, is fooled by flattery. We should say to those who flatter us, "You call me wise, but I know how many of the things I desire are useless, and how many of the things I want will harm me. I don't even have the basic knowledge that animals have about how much food and drink is enough. I don't even know how much I can handle. Now I'll show you how you can tell if you're not wise. The wise person is joyful, happy, calm, and unshaken. He lives on the same level as the gods. Now ask yourself, if you're never sad, if your mind isn't troubled by worries about the future, if your soul remains steady and content day and night, then you've achieved the greatest good that humans can possess. But if you're constantly chasing after all kinds of pleasures, you should know that you're as far from wisdom as you are from true joy. Joy is what you want, but you're off track if you think you can find it while you're surrounded by wealth and titles. In other words, if you're looking for joy in the midst of worries, the things you're striving for so eagerly, thinking they'll bring you happiness and pleasure, are really just sources of sorrow. I believe that all people like this are chasing after joy, but they don't know where to find joy that's both deep and lasting. Some look for it in feasting and indulgence, others in seeking honors and being surrounded by followers, others in their lovers, and still others in showing off their knowledge and in literature that doesn't help them grow. All these people are led astray by pleasures that are misleading and short-lived, like drunkenness, which gives an hour of wild happiness but is followed by days of sickness, or like applause and popularity, which are gained and paid for with great mental unrest. So think about this. The result of wisdom is joy that's unbroken and continuous. The mind of the wise person is like the sky above the moon. Eternal calm fills that region. So you have a reason to want to be wise if the wise person is never without joy. This joy comes from knowing that you possess virtues. Only the brave, the just, and the self-restrained can truly rejoice. And when you ask, what do you mean? Don't foolish and wicked people also rejoice? I'll answer, no more than lions who are caught their prey. When people wear themselves out with wine and lust, when the night ends before they're done with their revelry, when the pleasures they've piled onto a body too small to hold them start to rot, that's when they miserably cry out those lines from Virgil. You know how, amid false glittering joys, we spent that last night. Pleasure seekers spend every night and false glittering joys, just as if it were their last. But the joy that belongs to the gods, and to those that imitate the gods, isn't interrupted, nor does it end. And it would end if it came from outside, just because it doesn't come from anyone else. It's not at the mercy of someone else's whims. What fortune didn't give, she cannot take away. Farewell. Letter 60. On harmful prayers. I am feeling a complaint taken to this court, and I am angry. Do you still want what your nurse, your guardian, or your mother prayed for on your behalf? Do you realize how harmful those prayers were? Oh, how much harm the wishes of our loved ones can bring us. And the more completely their wishes are fulfilled, the more harmful they are. At my age, it's no surprise that nothing but trouble has followed us since our early youth. We have grown up surrounded by the curses that our parents called down on us. And may the gods hear our cry as well, a cry that asks for no favors. How long will we continue to make demands on the gods, as if we still can't take care of ourselves? How long will we keep filling the marketplaces of our great cities with food? How long must we have others gather it for us? How long will many ships carry the supplies for just one meal, bringing them from all over the seas? The bull is satisfied when it feeds over a few acres, and one forest is big enough for a herd of elephants. However, humans take their food from both the earth and the sea. So did nature give us bellies so insatiable, even though she gave us such small bodies that we should outdo even the biggest and most voracious animals in greed? Not at all. How small is the amount that we satisfy nature? A very little will make her content. It's not the natural hunger of our stomachs that cost us so much, but our endless cravings. Therefore, those who, as Solus puts it, listen to their stomachs should be counted among the animals, and not among men. And some men, indeed, should not even be counted among the animals, but among the dead. The person who really lives is the one who is useful to many. The person who really lives is the one who makes use of themselves. But those men who hide away and grow sluggish are no better off in their homes than if they were in their graves. Right there, on the marble door of such a man's house, you could inscribe his name, for he has died before he is dead. Farewell. Letter 61. On meeting death cheerfully. Let's stop wanting the things we've always wanted. At least I'm trying to do this now that I'm older. I've stopped wanting the things I wanted when I was younger. My days and nights are focused on one goal, to get rid of my long-lasting troubles. I'm trying to live each day as if it were a full, complete life. I'm not grabbing at life as if it were my last day, but I do treat it like it could be my last. I'm writing this letter to you with that thought in mind, as if death might take me away while I'm still writing. I'm ready to go, and I enjoy life because I'm not overly worried about when I'll leave. Before I grew old, I tried to live well. Now that I'm old, I'm trying to die well. But dying well means dying with a positive attitude, making sure you never do anything unwillingly. If you're forced to do something, it feels like a burden. But if you choose to do it, then it's not really a burden. This is what I mean. The person who willingly accepts what they have to do avoids the worst part of being forced into something. Doing what they don't want to do, the person who does things because they have to, isn't miserable. The person who does things against their will, So let's train our minds to want whatever life demands of us, and especially to think about our death without sadness. We should prepare for death even before we prepare for life. Life gives us enough, but we always seem to want more. There always seems to be something missing, and there always will be. Living long enough doesn't depend on how many years or days we have, but on our state of mind. I have lived long enough, my dear friend Lucilius. I am satisfied. I am ready for death. Farewell. Letter 62. On good company. We are tricked by people who try to convince us they are too busy to study or learn. They pretend to be occupied with many tasks, but really they're just keeping themselves busy with unimportant things. As for me, Lucilius, my time is my own. It truly is, and no matter where I am in control of myself. I don't let my tasks take over my life. Instead, I just lend myself to them. I don't make excuses for wasting time. And wherever I am, I think about important ideas and keep my mind focused on something good. When I spend time with my friends, I don't stop being with myself. I don't spend time with people just because of some event or work-related duty. Instead, I spend my time with the best people, even if they lived in different places or different times. I let my thoughts reach out to them. For example, I often think of Demetrius, who is one of the best people I know. I prefer to spend time in my thoughts with him, even though he dresses simply, rather than with people who wear fancy clothes. Why wouldn't I respect him? I learned that he doesn't need anything. Anyone can learn to look down on material things, but no one can have everything. The quickest way to be rich is to stop wanting riches. Our friend Demetrius doesn't just act like he has given up on material things. He actually lives as though he has given them away for others to own. Farewell. Letter 63. On grief for lost friends. I am saddened to hear that your friend Flaxus has died, but I hope you won't grieve more than is necessary. I won't insist that you shouldn't mourn at all, even though I know that's the better way. But who can be so strong and steady in spirit unless they've already risen above what life throws at them? Even a person like that will feel a sting from an event like this, but it will only be a small sting. However, we can be forgiven for crying as long as our tears don't go too far, and we manage to control them. Don't let your eyes stay dry when you've lost a friend, but don't let them overflow either. We can cry, but we shouldn't wail. Do you think the advice I'm giving you is harsh when even the greatest Greek poets said that crying should only last one day, as in the story where even Niobe eventually thought of food? Do you want to know why people cry and mourn too much? It's because they seek proof of their loss through their tears, and they don't truly let themselves feel the sorrow, but instead put on a show of it. No one mourns just for themselves. It's embarrassing how we act foolishly at the wrong times. There's even a bit of selfishness in our sorrow. You might say, what, should I forget my friend? But if your memory of him only lasts as long as your grief, it's not much of a memory. Soon enough, something will make you smile or laugh, even if it's just something small. I'm only asking you to let your sadness fade away in time, to calm even the deepest sorrow. Once you stop focusing on your own suffering, the picture of grief you've held on to will fade. Right now, you're watching over your own pain, but even while you're watching, it's slipping away, and the sharper the pain, the faster it fades. Let's try to remember those we've lost with a smile. No one enjoys thinking about something that only brings pain, so it's natural that when we think of the names of those we've loved and lost, it might sting a little, but there's also a strange pleasure in that sting. As my friend Attalus used to say, remembering lost friends is like tasting fruit that's pleasantly sour or enjoying the bitterness of very old wine. In time, the pain fades, and we're left with the sweetness. If we listen to Attalus, he says, thinking of living friends is like enjoying a meal of cakes and honey. Remembering friends who have passed away brings a pleasure that's a bit bittersweet. But who can deny that even the bittersweet things can help to stir the appetite? For me, I don't quite agree with him. To me, thinking about my dead friends is sweet and comforting. I had them knowing that one day I might lose them, and I've lost them as if I still have them. So, Lucilius, act with the calmness you possess and stop seeing fortune's gifts in the wrong way. Fortune has taken away, but fortune also has given. Let's enjoy our friends eagerly because we don't know how long we'll have them. Let's remember how often we've been apart from them on distant trips, or even when we're in the same place but still don't see each other. We'll realize that we've missed too much of their time while they're alive. But how can you stand people who don't care much for their friends while they're alive but mourn them excessively when they're gone? They don't truly love anyone until they've lost them. The reason they mourn so loudly is that they're afraid people will doubt that they really love them. Too late, they try to prove their feelings. If we have other friends, it's wrong to think so little of them that they don't comfort us after losing one. But if we have no other friends, we've done more harm to ourselves than fortune has done to us. Fortune took one friend, but we've deprived ourselves of any new friends we could have made. Also, someone who can only love one person hasn't really loved even that one enough. Even a man who loses his only coat to a thief spends his time complaining instead of finding a way to stay cool. Don't you think he was foolish? You've lost someone you loved. Now look for someone new to love. It's better to find a new friend than to keep crying over the one you lost. What I'm about to say is common, but I won't skip it just because it's often repeated. Time will end your grief even if you don't want it to, but it's shameful for a wise person to let time heal their sorrow instead of ending it themselves. I'd rather you let go of your grief than your grief let go of you. And you should stop grieving as soon as you can, because even if you try to hold on to it, you won't be able to for long. Our ancestors decided that women should mourn for a year, not because they needed to grieve for that long, but so that they wouldn't grieve any longer. Men, however, have no such rules because it's not considered honorable for them to mourn at all. But still, show me a woman who cried so much over her loss that she couldn't be dragged away from the funeral, and I'll show you someone whose tears didn't last a whole month. Nothing becomes annoying faster than grief. When it's fresh, people offer comfort and sympathy, but when it drags on, it becomes a joke, and rightly so. Lasting long grief is either fake or foolish. The one writing these words to you is none other than me, who cried so much for my dear friend Aeneas Serenus, that despite my best efforts, I became one of those who let grief overpower them. But today I regret that, and I understand that the reason I grieved so much was that I never imagined he could die before me. I only thought about how much younger he was, as if the fates cared about the order of our ages. So let's always remember not just that everything is mortal, but that death follows no set rules. Whatever can happen at any time can happen today. So let's think, my dear Lucilius, that soon enough we'll reach the same place our friend has gone to, which makes us sad now. And maybe, if the wise people are right, and there is a place that welcomes us after death, then the friend we think we've lost has only gone ahead to wait for us. Farewell. Letter 64. On the Philosopher's Task. Yesterday you were with us. You might be upset if I just said yesterday, so I added with us. For me, you are always with me in spirit. Some friends came over, and because of that, we made the fire a bit brighter. Not the kind of fire that rich people have that can cause a lot of smoke and trouble, but a nice, moderate fire that shows us we have guests. Our conversations move across different topics, as usually happens at dinner. It didn't stick to one subject, but jumped from one idea to another. We also read a book by Quintus Sextius the Elder. He is an amazing person, if you trust my opinion, and truly a Stoic, even though he doesn't claim to be one. Wow, what strength and energy you find in his work. This isn't true for all philosophers. Some have famous names, but their writings lack energy. They make rules, argue, and split hairs, but they don't inspire because they lack spirit themselves. But when you read Sextius, you will say he is full of life, he is strong, he is free. He is more than just a man. He fills me with great confidence even before I finish his book. I'll admit to you how I feel when I read his works. I want to take on every challenge. I want to shout, "Why are you making me wait, Fortune? Bring it on, I'm ready for you." I feel like a person who is eager to find a way to test themselves. A way to show their worth, like someone who has restless among peaceful sheep and prays that a wild boar or a fierce lion will cross their path. I want to overcome, something to test my endurance. This is another remarkable thing about Sextius. He shows you how great a happy life can be, but he doesn't make you feel like it's out of reach. You will understand that it's high up, but that it's possible to reach it if you really want to. Virtue itself will have the same effect on you. It will make you admire it and also hope to achieve it. For me, just thinking about wisdom takes up a lot of my time. I look at it with wonder, just like I sometimes gaze at the sky as if I'm seeing it for the first time. This is why I admire the discoveries of wisdom and those who discovered them. It's a joy to inherit the knowledge passed down by many who came before us. They saved this treasure for us. They worked hard for our benefit. But we should act like responsible homeowners. We should add to what we have inherited. This inheritance should pass from me to those who come after me, larger than it was before. There is still much to do, and there always will be. And someone born 1,000 years from now will still have a chance to add something new. Even if the old masters have discovered everything, there will always be something new. The way we apply, study, and classify the discoveries made by others. Think about how doctors have given us treatments for eye problems. There's no need for me to look for new ones, but I do need to know how to adapt these treatments to specific diseases and stages of those diseases. Use this treatment to heal inflamed eyelids. That one to reduce swelling, this one to stop sudden pain or tears, and that one to improve vision. Then combine these different treatments, figure out the right time to use them, and apply the right treatment in each case. The cures for the soul were also discovered by the ancient thinkers, but it's our job to learn how and when to apply them. Our predecessors made great improvements, but they didn't solve everything. They deserve our respect, and they should be honored with almost a divine reverence. Why shouldn't I keep statues of a great man to inspire me and celebrate their birthdays? Why shouldn't I always show them respect and honor? The reverence I owe to my own teachers is the same respect I owe to those who have taught the human race, the source of such great blessings. If I meet a consul or a praetor, important officials, I will pay him all the respect that his position deserves. I will get off my horse, take off my hat, and give him the right of way. So, what then? Should I welcome into my soul with any less respect Marcus Cato, the elder and the younger? Laelius the wise, Socrates and Plato, Zeno and Cleanthes? I truly honor them and always rise to show my respect for such noble names. Farewell. Letter 65. On the first cause. Yesterday I spent my time dealing with an illness. It took up the whole morning, but in the afternoon I got some time back. So, I first tested my mind by reading. When I found that reading was possible, I decided to push myself further, or maybe I should say I allowed myself to do more. I wrote a little, and I was even more focused than usual, because I'm working on a difficult subject, and I don't want to be defeated by it. In the middle of this, some friends came to visit me, intending to stop me. As if I were a sick man doing too much. So instead of writing, we talked. And from this conversation, I'll share with you the topic that we're still debating, because we've chosen you to decide who's right. You have more of a task than you might think, because the argument has 3 parts. Our Stoic philosophers, as you know, say that there are 2 things in the universe that are the source of everything: cause and matter. Matter is inactive, just sitting there, ready to be used for anything, but it will remain unused unless someone moves it. Cause, which we also call reason, shapes matter and directs it wherever it needs to go, producing various results. So for everything that exists, there has to be something it's made from, and there has to be something that made The first is its material, and the second is its cause. All art is just an imagination of nature, so let me apply these general ideas to things made by people. For example, a statue needed material to work with and an artist to shape that material. So in the case of the statue, the material was bronze and the cause was the artist. And it's the same with everything. They consist of what they're made of and the one who makes them. The Stoics believe in only one cause, the maker. But Aristotle thinks that the word cause can be used in three ways. The first cause, he says, is the actual material, without which nothing can be made. The second is the artist. The third is the form, which is the shape given to the work. A statue, for example, Aristotle calls this form the idios. He also says there's a fourth cause, the purpose of the work as a whole. Now I'll explain what this last cause means. Bronze is the first cause of the statue because it couldn't have been made without something to mold. The second cause is the artist, because without the skilled hands of a workman, the bronze couldn't be shaped into that statue. The third cause is the form, because our statue couldn't be called the lance-bearer or the boy finding his hair without the specific shape. The fourth cause is the purpose of the work. If this purpose hadn't existed, the statue wouldn't have been made. Now, what is this purpose? It's what motivated the artist, what he was aiming for when he made the statue. It might have been money if he made it to sell, or fame if he worked for recognition, or religion if he made it as a gift for a temple. So this is also a cause that contributes to the making of the statue. Or do you think we should ignore something that without it the statue wouldn't have been made? Plato adds a fifth cause, the pattern, which we call the idea. This is what the artist looked at when he created the work he wanted to make. It doesn't matter if this pattern was outside of him so that he could look at it, or inside his mind created by himself. God has within himself the patterns of all things, and his mind understands the order and structure of everything that needs to be made. He is full of these shapes, which Plato calls the ideas, unchanging, everlasting, and not subject to decay. So, even though men die, humanity itself, or the idea of man according to which men are made, continues. And even though men work and perish, this idea doesn't change. So, as Plato says, there are five causes: the material, the agent, the makeup, the mortal, and the goal. The last is the result of all these, just as with the statue. To go back to the example we started with, the material is the bronze, the agent is the artist, the makeup is the form given to the material, the model is the pattern the artist copied, the goal is the purpose in the maker's mind, and finally, the result of all these is the statue itself. The universe, according to Plato, also has all these elements. The agent is God, the source is matter, the form is the shape and arrangement of the visible world. The model is the pattern God used to create this great and beautiful world. The purpose is his reason for doing it. Do you ask what God's purpose is? It is goodness, Plato says. What was God's reason for creating the world? God is good, and no good person holds back anything that is good. So, God made it the best world possible. Now give your opinion, O judge. Say, who do you think is closest to the truth? Not who is absolutely right, because understanding the full truth is far beyond us as the truth itself. The group of causes, as described by Aristotle and Plato, either includes too much or too little. Because if they call everything a cause that's needed to make something, they haven't named enough. Time must also be included as a cause, because nothing can be made without time. They also need to include place, because if there's no place where something can be made, it won't be made. And motion, too. There is no art without motion, no change of any kind. Now, I'm searching for the first, the general cause. This must be simple, just as matter is simple. Do we ask what cause is? It's surely creative reason, in other words, God. Because those elements you mentioned are not a great number of independent causes. They all depend on one alone, and that's the creative cause. Do you think that form is a cause? That's just what the artist impresses on his work. It's part of a cause, but not the cause. Neither is the pattern a cause, but it's a necessary tool for the cause. The pattern is as necessary to the artist as the chisel or the fire. Without these, art can't move forward. But even so, those things are neither parts of the art nor causes of it. Then you might say the purpose of the artist, the reason he decided to create something, is the cause. It may be a cause, but it's not the main cause, just an additional one. But there are countless additional causes. What we're discussing is the general cause. Now, what Plato and Aristotle said doesn't match their usual deep thinking when they say that the whole universe, this perfectly crafted work, is a cause. Because there's a big difference between a work and the cause of work. Either give your opinion, or, as is easier in these kinds of cases, say that the matter isn't clear and ask for another discussion. But you might ask, what pleasure do you get from spending your time on these problems that don't take away any of your emotions or stop any of your desires? As for me, I treat and discuss these things because I believe they help calm the mind, and I search myself first, and then the world around me. And even now, as you might think, I'm not wasting my time, because all of these questions, as long as they aren't overcomplicated and broken down into useless details, lift and lighten the soul, which is weighed down by a heavy burden and wants to be free and return to the elements it was once a part of. Because this body of ours is a weight on the soul and its punishment, as the load presses down, the soul is crushed and enslaved unless philosophy comes to help it and encourages it by thinking about the universe, turning it from earthly things to divine things. There the soul finds its freedom. There it can wander freely. In the meantime, it escapes the prison where it's kept and renews its life in heaven. Just like skilled workers who have been focused on delicate work that tires their eyes at the light. If the light they have is poor or uncertain, they go outside in the open air and enjoy the bright light of day in a park. In the same way, the soul, trapped in this gloomy and dark body, seeks the open sky whenever it can, and finds rest in thinking about the universe. The wise person, the one seeking wisdom, is closely connected to their body, but in their better self they are absent, concentrating on higher things, bound, so to speak, by an oath of loyalty. They see life as their term of service. They are trained not to love or hate life. They endure the mortal condition knowing that a greater fate awaits them. Do you forbid me from thinking about the universe? Do you force me to pull away from the whole and focus on only a part? Can't I ask what the beginnings of all things are? Who shaped the universe? Who took the chaotic and mixed up mass of inactive matter and separated it into its parts? Can't I inquire who is the master builder of this universe? How the huge mass was brought under control by law and order? Who gathered the scattered atoms? Who separated the chaotic elements and gave form to what was once a shapeless mass? Or where did all the light come from? And is it fire or something even brighter than fire? Can't I ask these questions? Do I have to stay ignorant of the heights I came from? Will I see this world only once, or will I be born many times? What happens to me afterward? Where will my soul go when it's freed from the laws of slavery among humans? Do you forbid me to take part in the heavens? In other words, do you tell me to live with my head bowed down? Now I'm above such a life. I was born for a greater destiny than to be just a slave to my body. And I see this body as nothing more than a chain that holds back my freedom. So I offer it as a kind of shield to protect me from fortune, and I won't let any wound reach my soul. Because my body is the only part of me that can be hurt. In this house, which is open to danger, my soul lives free. My body will never make me feel fear or force me to pretend to be something that's not worthy of a good person. I will never lie to honor this small body. When the time seems right, I will break my connection with it. And for now, while we're still together, our alliance will not be equal. The soul will bring all disputes before its own court. To despise our bodies is true freedom. To go back to our main topic, this freedom will be greatly helped by the kind of thinking we were just discussing. All things are made up of matter and of God. God controls matter, which surrounds him and follows him as its guide and leader. And that which creates, in other words, God, is more powerful and valuable than matter, which is acted upon by God. God's role in the universe is like the soul's role in a person. World matter is like our mortal body. So, the lower should serve the higher. Let us be brave in the face of dangers. Let us not fear wrongs or wounds or chains or poverty. And what is death? It is either the end or a process of change. I don't fear ceasing to exist. It's the same as not having begun, nor do I fear changing into another state, because under no circumstances will I be as restricted as I am now. Farewell. Letter 66. On various aspects of virtue. I recently saw my old school friend Clarinus for the first time in many years. You don't need me to tell you that he is an old man, but I assure you that I found him strong in spirit and determined, even though his body is weak and frail. It seems unfair that nature gave him a weak body to house such a remarkable soul. Or maybe it was to show us that a truly strong and happy mind can exist in any body. Either way, Clarinus overcomes all these obstacles, and by disregarding his own body, he has reached a point where he can disregard other things as well. The poet who said virtue looks better in a beautiful form, in my opinion, is mistaken. Virtue doesn't need anything to make it shine. It is its own great glory, and it makes the body it inhabits special. I've begun to see Clarinus in a different light. He seems handsome to me, and his body is as strong as his
We
mind.
almost died.
A great person can come from a humble background, just as a beautiful and great soul can come from an ugly and insignificant body. For this reason, nature seems to produce certain people like Clarinus to prove that virtue can be born anywhere. If it were possible for nature to create souls by themselves, without bodies, should we have done so? But instead, she does something even greater by producing people who, despite their weak bodies, break through the limitations. I believe Clarinus was created as an example to show us that the soul is not made ugly by an unattractive body, but rather the body is made beautiful by the goodness of the soul. Although Clarinus and I have only spent a few days together, we had many deep conversations, which I'll share with you now. On the first day, we explored this problem. How can good things be equal if they don't come in three kinds? According to our philosophical beliefs, some goods are primary, like joy, peace, and the well-being of one's country. Others are the second order, formed from difficult experiences, like enduring suffering and showing self-control during serious illness.
That makes for a lot.
We pray for the goods of the first kind outright, but for the second kind, we pray only if the need arises. There is also a third type, like having a modest walk, a calm and honest face, and a demeanor that suits a wise person. Now how can these things be equal when compared? If we believe we should pray for one kind and avoid the other, if we make distinctions among them, we should go back to the first good and consider what it truly is. It's the soul that understands truth, that knows what to seek and what to avoid, setting standards based on nature. This soul sees the whole world and looks carefully at all its aspects, focusing equally on thoughts and actions, remaining great and strong, rising above hardships and pleasures, not letting either good fortune or bad fortune affect it. This soul is absolutely beautiful, perfectly balanced with grace and strength. Healthy and resilient, calm and fearless, unbroken by violence and unmoved by chance. A soul like this is virtue itself. There you have its appearance, if it could ever be seen all at once in its complete form, but there are many aspects of it. These aspects unfold as life changes and as actions differ, but virtue itself does not become smaller or greater. The supreme good cannot decrease, nor can virtue go backward. Rather, it transforms, taking on different qualities as needed, shaping itself according to the role it needs to play. Whatever virtue touches, it makes similar to itself and colors with its own character. It enhances our actions, our friendships, and sometimes even whole households that it enters and puts in order. Whatever virtue handles, it immediately makes lovable, notable and admirable. There, the power of greatness and virtue cannot rise any higher because nothing can be added to something that is already as great as it can be. You will find nothing straighter than the straight, nothing truer than the truth, and nothing more moderate than that which is moderate. Every virtue is limitless. Limits depend on specific measurements. Steadfastness cannot be improved, just as fidelity, truthfulness, and loyalty cannot be improved. Nothing else can be added to something perfect because if something is added, it wasn't perfect to begin with. Nor can anything be added to virtue, because if something can be added to it, it must have had a flaw. Honor also allows no addition, for it is honorable because of the qualities I've mentioned. What then, do you think that propriety, justice, and lawfulness don't also belong to the same category and are not kept with fixed limits? The ability to increase is proof that something is...
Well, we're flying back to Stormwind. We survived. That was close. We saved our friend.
The same laws. The well-being of the state and the individual are connected.
It was pretty good.
It is as impossible to separate them
Thanks
as
for
it is
watching
to separate
Teflon
what is
Stoic,
commendable from what is
and I think we
desirable.
learned plenty. I'll catch you later.
Therefore,